And today we're diving into something really fascinating. It's this idea of the empty mind and nirvana.
Right, and we're drawing from some specific material here?
Yes, mainly excerpts from a sermon by Mrs. Metta Utakapan called The Easy Path to Nirvana, and also a related video transcript from Swan Mock International.
Okay, so the big question for you listening is, how can this, like ancient wisdom, offer a path to freedom from suffering that's described as, well, easy? And what does empty mind actually mean for us today?
It's a great question. And according to Mrs. Utakapan, drawing on Lord Buddha's teachings, after 45 years, he basically taught just two main aspects of reality, two sides of the coin, if you will.
Just two? That's unsurprisingly simple.
It is, kind of. The first side is, well, suffering.
Okay, suffering. We know that one.
Right. And Mrs. Utakapan uses this image of 5 fingers to represent it. They stand for the 5 aggregations.
Aggregations? What's that?
It's basically everything we tend to think of as me or mine. So your body and your mind.
Ah, got it. Like the physical stuff.
Exactly. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. That's the physical form part.
And the mind part.
That's things like feeling, memory, thought. And it's interesting what they call blind knowing or the blind mind.
Blind mind? What does that mean?
It's sort of that unconscious reactive part, the part that just automatically reacts without real awareness. It's key, apparently.
Okay, so we've got the body and mind, but then there's suffering we all face, right? Like getting old, sick, losing people, worry, fear. The Source says these are just natural things.
Yes, exactly. They're described as just the system of nature, unavoidable parts of life.
So why do they hurt so much if they're just natural?
That's where the blind mind comes back in. The teaching suggests it's this blind mind that makes us cling to these natural events, makes us take them personally, makes us feel like they are suffering.
So it's the attachment, the identification with it, driven by this blind mind.
Precisely. That attachment to our body and mind, that feeling of this is happening to me, that's identified as the root cause of suffering. Not the event itself, but our reaction, our clinging.
Okay, that's insightful. So that's side one, suffering rooted in attachment via the blind mind. What's side two?
Side two is nirvana, liberation from suffering.
Nirvana. Okay, big word. What does it mean here? Is it like heaven after you die?
Not exactly, no. It's presented as a state of freedom from suffering that you can experience right now, even while you're, dealing with life's difficulties.
So freedom while facing suffering.
Yes. And what's really striking is the claim that nirvana is always with you.
Always with me.
Yeah. The speaker says, you are nirvana by nature already. Your true self is nirvana.
Whoa. Okay, so my body and mind, which change and suffer, that's not my true self.
According to this teaching, no, because they're impermanent, always changing, always tied to potential suffering.
But nirvana, that's the true self, because it doesn't change.
Exactly. It never changes. It's immortal, and it's always there waiting to help you, in a sense. An unchanging core.
That's quite a thought. Comforting, actually. So how do we get there? To this nirvana, this true self, is there a path?
Well, this is where the easy path to empty mind comes in. The Source talks about a practice from Scripture, sometimes called the way of sin or way of send.
Way of sin? Sounds a bit ominous.
Yeah, maybe the translation is tricky, but the point is, it's presented as a really direct way to get to what's called the original mind.
Original mind. Is that the same as nirvana?
Yes. The speaker is clear. Different words, same thing. Original mind, nirvana, empty minds. They all point to the same state.
Okay. And there was a quote you mentioned earlier from Buddhasa Bhikkhu.
Right. A very simple but profound line. Whatever work you do, be with your empty mind.
Be with your empty mind. Sounds great. But how? That seems to be the tricky part.
Exactly. The speaker, this is Utakapan, mentions that even she didn't get it at first, despite years of meditation. People heard the teaching, but didn't know the how.
So it's not just about knowing the idea.
No. She shares that it took her 15 years trying different methods before she stumbled upon this way of sin and realized, this is what they meant. This is the practical way. And she says, it really helped me to be free from suffering.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what are the steps? How does this way of sin send actually work?
It's surprisingly straightforward. Step 1, start by just knowing your breath. Paying attention to your breathing.
Okay, like in basic mindfulness meditation.
Sort of, but there's a catch. The Source notes that when you're just doing that, focusing on the breath, you're still using that blind mind. You're still kind of operating on the side of suffering because the focus is still external on a changing process.
Okay. So that's not the goal itself. What's next?
This is the crucial bit. The instruction is, leave your breath and come inside. Turn back, turn inside, and see your mind.
Leave the breath, turn inside, see your mind.
Yeah. Shift your attention away from the breath, away from the body's processes, and just turn awareness inward, towards the space of the mind itself.
And what happens when you do that? What do you see?
Well, the description is quite direct. Look at your mind. It is empty, right? No thought, no feeling. It is empty.
Empty. Like nothing's there.
Not empty like a vacuum, more like spacious, uncluttered. It's described as your original mind, your true self. It's just calm and still, no movement.
Calm and still. No thoughts, no feelings.
Pure nature, it says. With no ego, no craving, no anger, no worries. Just pure, quiet awareness.
Wow. Okay, so that stillness, that quiet emptiness is nirvana, the original mind.
That's the teaching, yes. It's not something you build or achieve. It's something you uncover by turning awareness inward.
So then, how does this relate to living in the world? You can't just stay in that empty state all the time, can you?
That leads to the next really interesting part, the idea of the noble one.
The noble one.
Yes. According to Lord Buddha's teaching, a noble one isn't someone who escapes suffering entirely, but someone who can hold both sides of reality in awareness at the same time.
Both sides. You mean suffering and nirvana? Simultaneously.
Exactly. Seeing the changing reality of suffering while being grounded in the unchanging reality of the empty mind, or nirvana.
How does that work? Can we go back to the breath example?
Yes, it's a good analogy. Remember, the outside, the breath representing body and mind is always moving, rising and falling, changing.
Right, constant flux.
But the inside, that empty mind you just found, is still and calm, no moving at all. It's the unchanging background.
Okay.
So the practice, the state of the noble one, is to be with your empty mind and know your breath together at the same time.
With the empty mind and knowing the breath simultaneously.
Yes. You're aware of the stillness inside, and you're aware of the movement outside, the breath, thoughts, sensations, life happening. You observe the changing phenomena of body and mind, but from that still, empty center, you don't get swept away by it.
So you're not identifying with the breath or the suffering.
Right. From that inner stillness, inside you are free from suffering already. Even while outside you see your breath moving in, moving out, you see the suffering, the change, the thoughts, but as something that is not yours.
Not yours. This connects to that idea you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Empty mind is observer, not a doer. No ego in empty mind. When you're resting in that empty awareness, there isn't a self doing the observing or having the thoughts.
In fact, there is no observer. And there is just observation.
Precisely. The empty mind is the pure, still observation itself. Just awareness. No separate me involved.
That's profound. Okay, so finding this state, turning inward, is described as easy. Just look inside.
Apparently, yes. Surprisingly simple.
But staying there, that's the challenge.
That's what the source suggests. Finding it is easy, but staying with it, making it your default state, requires practice. Like learning to write with your non-dominant hand. It feels awkward at first.
Right. It takes effort to build that new habit, that new way of being.
Exactly. It requires being with nirvana, with that empty mind, frequently, diligently, and determinately. You got to keep coming back to it.
So it's an active practice, not just a one-off realization. You need to strengthen it.
Yes. To make that state of empty awareness stronger than suffering, stronger than the habit of getting caught up in the blind mind's reactions.
Which brings us back to Buddhadasa Bhikkhu's advice.
Whatever you are doing, be with your empty mind. It's about integrating this awareness into everything.
Not just sitting on a cushion.
No, the source is very explicit. While you are standing, walking, sitting, lying, or showering, watching your face, brushing your teeth, or working, cooking, doing anything that you do.
Wow, anything.
Don't forget to look at your empty mind and try to stay with empty mind as long as possible. Merge that inner stillness with outer activity.
And the benefit of doing this, staying with the empty mind.
Well, remember, it has no thought, no feeling, no worries, no sorrow, no anger, nothing at all in itself. It's just pure, peaceful awareness.
But it's not like being a zombie, right? It can still function.
Absolutely. It says it can work with your aggregation, meaning your body and mind. It works together with them. But from a place of freedom, making you truly happy, it suggests.
So it's clarity and peace in action, not withdrawal.
That seems to be the idea. A foundation of stillness that allows for wiser, happier engagement with life.
And this state, nirvana, the empty mind, it's described as our true home.
Yes, the safest place, a real home, because it's inherently free from suffering. unlike, say, a physical house, which is temporary and external.
This inner home is always there, always accessible.
Always. An unchanging sanctuary. The source even implies it's maybe too simple, you know? People expect something complicated or magical, but this empty awareness is just there, waiting.
It's about remembering that your true self, that observing awareness, doesn't change. It's always present, immortal, just watching.
Exactly. Consistent practice just helps you realize that more deeply, more constantly.
So, wrapping this up for you, our listener, this deep dive points to something quite revolutionary, really. Accessing profound freedom isn't some complex journey, but a simple inward turn.
Right. Finding that natural empty mind, that still awareness, and then learning to stay with it, even as you live your life.
So here's a thought to leave you with. If this freedom, this stillness, is truly our natural state, always available, what worries, what limitations that you feel might just dissolve if you consistently remember to return to this true home inside.
And what really opens up when you start to experience yourself, not as the thinker, the doer, the one caught in the drama, but as that still, unmoving, egoless observation.
Yeah.
Just pure awareness watching the show.
That potential, that state, it's right here, always waiting. Something to explore.